Hey folks, welcome to a new episode of the Whiskey Ring Podcast. Today we're doing one of my favorite things. We are going to a state I have not visited before with the podcast, going over to West Virginia. And to introduce us to West Virginia and the distillery that we're going to be talking about, we've got on Athey Lutz. He is the founder, distiller, kind of ideas guy behind Still Hollow Spirits. So Athey, welcome on.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Athey. Sorry, that was my dog, Ollie. Barking dog's another part of West Virginia culture, so don't mind him. I appreciate you having me here and excited to talk about distilling.
Awesome. So before we get started, the first time we're in West Virginia, for example, I actually have not visited there in person, so totally new state for me. The one thing I wanted to ask you first was, Athey, unusual name for me. Where does it come from?
That was my grandfather's name, and it actually was a last name of some family friends that was then turned into a first name. And he was originally from the Shenandoah Valley, which is over in the Blue Ridge of Virginia, but not too far from here. And so, yeah, it's an old last name, Scottish in origin.
Gotcha. The Scottish thing kind of picked out of me, but, I know the Scots and Irish went everywhere, but you never know where they went where. So had to ask. So Still Hollow Spirits, you're in the kind of eastern promontory of West Virginia. Looking at a map, not terribly far from like the southern border of Maryland or the western border of Virginia, but definitely in the mountains enough that it can take, half an hour, 35 to really get to you. And that's kind of part of the appeal, is you go up the gravel road and get to see the beautiful visages in West Virginia. So I'll throw it over to you to kind of discuss the origin story, how you started Still Hollow and got to where you are.
Yeah, the location, you're absolutely right. It's hard to get to. It's remote because of the mountains and just how windy the roads are. And that is what made it perfect for making liquor in the early days, because you were hidden back in these mountains. We're near the highest point in the state, which is Spruce Knob. We're about a half hour from there. And so these mountains have a lot of spring water coming out of them. That's another reason that we're located right here. So really rich in natural beauty and in natural resources, clean water, beautiful farmland. And the reason that we're right here is because of a spring on the property. And to the casual observer, it seems like we're in the middle of nowhere, but we're really a half hour from three of the most visited tourist destinations in West Virginia, which would be Seneca Rocks, Spruce Knob, and then Blackwater Falls up in the Davis-Thomas area. So there's a lot of people coming here for the natural beauty, and it really adds some authenticity when they come down here and travel the gravel roads and come into this beautiful area that's been making high quality liquor for 100 years.
And the kind of starting story for Still Hollow Spirits is there's a history of distilling in West Virginia, both legal and illicit, pre-prohibition and after. For you, your kind of start came from you and your wife, Maggie, doing a class in Vermont and then another in Chicago before deciding to open a distillery, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the tradition in this area goes way back, and growing up, it was always a part of the culture and life in this area. And you touched on how long it's been going on from pre-prohibition. It was legal then, and being so remote, the farmers in these areas would use making liquor as a means to make money to buy the things they couldn't do for themselves. So very self-sufficient people that settled these remote areas. But you couldn't load your whole corn crop onto a horse and ride over three mountains to sell it for money, but you could turn it into a couple little barrels of whiskey, strap that on your horse, and go buy metal or sugar or cloth or whatever those things are that you wanted to bring back to your family. So that tradition was going on for a long time. And then you got into the boom towns of the coal and lumber, and you had a lot of workers getting paychecks, and the liquor production increased with that. And then that kind of rolled right into prohibition, and the liquor kept being made in these areas. That tradition has been going on and was part of my life growing up. And then, there's a big difference between people doing it in their backyard or for fun as a hobby, and then actually figuring out how to do it as a business. So in West Virginia, when Maggie and I were looking at, is this a viable option? There were only, I think, 3 permits in the state, 3 operational distilleries. And the trend throughout the country was starting to loosen up the regulations to make it easier for small distilleries to get started. And Vermont was at the forefront of that movement. And so that's why we went and took the class in Vermont. It was through Vermont Technical College. I don't believe they still offer it, but the basic idea of the class was we'd go visit 3 or 4 craft distilleries every day, get to talk to the people that operate them, look at their operations, what are they making, where are they selling it. So it was really eye-opening, kind of, is this viable? What are the different business models? And what's the day-to-day of actually doing this for a living? The state of West Virginia, they had a workforce development program we were able to tap into to send us up there to that class. And then we followed that up with a class in Chicago at the Siebel Brewing Institute. And that was more like a high level, a lot of really big whiskey consultants, distillery consultants, kind of talking over a wide range of distillery operation things. Those were really useful in helping us try to figure out how to do it legitimately.
Was there a history of liquor making in your family before you?
No, not in my immediate family, just acquaintances that I grew up with.
Was What was the moment for you where you thought, well, I don't have this distilling history in my family. It's not like a passed down interest, but this is something that I really want to do.
Yeah, so growing up in this area, the economy was transitioning, you'd say, from history of extractive economy to more of a tourist economy. My dad worked in the ski areas since I was a kid. One of my other friends' dad ran a little cross-country ski area. And so we were exposed to a lot of people from all over coming to this area, and they were just fascinated by the moonshine culture and wanting to try it. And it always seemed like, man, if we could have a way to let people come experience it and profit from that, that it would be a really good business model. So the seed was planted long ago. And even 10 years before we went and did those classes, we started working up some business plans and trying to just see if it would be a viable option.
So this really goes back quite a while because you're just about hitting your 10th anniversary of having Still Hollow open.
Yes, yeah. So I was traveling for work doing environmental consulting. I'd been moved out of state for work, which is a common theme in this area. And then when I came back, I was still traveling for work doing that, but I really wanted to settle down and do something here. And so just progressively became more serious about trying to make it work.
And because this is the first time, again, we're talking to a distiller in West Virginia, can you talk to us a little bit about what the distilling scene looks like there? Like you said, it when you started, it was opening up to have more than just the 3 permits that were in the state. But some states have gone forward with opening it really wide, like New York or even Texas, and some have taken a long time to get to that point and are still kind of holding back. Where do you feel like what does it look like in West Virginia?
Well, it certainly has its challenges, but it's growing. There's now, I'm not sure the exact number, but we're in the 20s now with the number of distilleries. And it's unique in that you can't operate your distillery as a bar. So that changes the business model a little bit. You can't sell any outside alcohol other than what you produce. And so it kind of drives the distilleries away from that model you see in some other states where you have a tasting room attached to a restaurant with a bar, you're serving cocktails, right, that thing as well. So I think that limits it a little bit. All in all, it's great to see it growing, and the distillers are very friendly with each other, been working together. There's been a moonshine festival over in Martinsburg that Devil's Due Distilleries put on the last couple years, where they invite all the distillers in the state over to put on this festival and have a big dinner for everybody. So it's been a great community building to see everybody open these distilleries with their own twist on their heritage in distilling and what they bring to the table. So it's definitely growing. We're seeing a lot of good spirits come out of the state. Regulations are very slow to change. So I wouldn't say it's painless to operate a distillery here, but more and more people, and the state certainly tries to work with you. I could
Yeah, it's a
go
big.
into detailed regulations, but I don't think anyone wants to hear the CFRs that need adjusting.
I mean, I'm always curious, but I hear what you're saying. The ban on using outside alcohol is one of those things that I feel like I first heard with maybe Family Jones in Colorado, and I thought at the time, oh, that's really unique that they don't. And now I'm hearing it with so many states have that law. You can't use any alcohol you don't make on site, or in the same brand. With the distillers that are out there right now, the 20 plus distilleries, that's twice as what I had seen, which is great. Do you think that it kind of leans more towards either the moonshine slash unaged spirits versus the aged spirits, or is it kind of a good mix?
I'd say it's a pretty good mix, maybe slightly skewed toward the moonshine, flavored moonshine side of things. There are quite a few people doing bourbon and different whiskeys that also do the flavored shine or the clear shine on the side. A couple apple brandy distilleries, so that was a real traditional product in West Virginia. Johnny Appleseed was real big in the state, and people think he was just planting apple trees, but they were all cider apples, and he was big in the distilling scene. So that was one of the real traditional spirits that you're still seeing people make here in the state, um, along with the whiskey, and then kind of the moonshining throughout the last 30 years or so has really skewed more toward the flavors than your traditional whiskeys.
And for you, it's still hollow. You started with corn whiskey,
Yeah.
and have since grown to doing shine, gins, aged whiskeys as well. When you were starting out, what is the thought process like to start with, corn whiskey first and smaller barrels, and then growing over time?
Yeah, so the big debate in this area here, the hollow, is, rye versus corn. And you got the people that say, rye whiskey smooth, corn is hot and hateful. And then, the vice versa, people that love corn whiskey and think rye is hot and hateful. So I personally always enjoyed corn whiskey. And so I followed my own inclination there. We were able to find a really interesting corn that had a long heritage in the state, a strain of Bloody Butcher corn that the same family had been growing for over 200 years, that had a history of being made into moonshine. And so we were able to source that. And so we wanted to do a real West Virginia whiskey that's really simple, like what would have been the clear moonshine 100 years ago if you were going the corn route and not the rye route. So we went with the corn, and then the small barrels, and selling it clear is just kind of a business decision where you have to have product to sell when you open up. And so we went with the small barrels because we could get a turnaround about 6 months on a 5-gallon barrel when we were first starting. And as we were filling those 5-gallon barrels, we were also filling 10 that we were going to age a year, and needs to age for 2 and 3 years. So in the beginning, you have to distill a lot more to start your whiskey production, get it going, and then also have some stuff to sell. And that's where, the gin and some of the flavored stuff come in too, because those are also products that don't take years to age, that you can create your revenue stream with.
Again, when you were starting, besides the classes in Vermont and in Chicago, were there other either people or distilleries that you looked to for guidance and inspiration?
I have my neighbor on the corner here, my official taste tester, was very helpful. There's some folks that run a large maple syrup operation up the road that the fella is very knowledgeable about traditional moonshine. Spruce Knob Maple, John Dalen there was very helpful to me as well, would come in and give me a lot of pointers. There's been a lot of local folks that have helped me out, not necessarily established distilleries. There weren't any quite right around here that I went to, but just a lot of local folks that lent me knowledge.
Was there a thought to maybe just sticking with moonshine or unaged?
We really wanted to do the aged spirit for sure. That was a plan from the beginning. And the flavors and the gin, that was kind of a thing we felt like we should do to until the spirits were the aged spirits were ready. But come to find out that those are actually a really important part of our portfolio and something also that I've really enjoyed learning more about and am really interested now in as much or even more than the aged spirits that we're doing.
You have some, to me, very interesting flavors. I mean, more classic ones like cranberry, and then you've got chaga, which I had to look up. It's a type of mushroom, but elderberries, black walnuts. I know those can be great for flavorings and liqueurs. Ginseng, I was kind of surprised was a big crop near you. I know
Yeah,
that it's a mental thing of I assume ginseng is going to be usually in East Asia, but it's a mountain flavor.
it is. It's the crop here. Most of it ends up getting shipped to Asia, and it's very highly regulated because it takes so long to grow and it's so valuable. And it's been a tradition as older than the liquor making to harvest ginseng as a cash crop from the mountains here. We have a friend that is a dealer in ginseng. You have to be licensed to purchase ginseng in the state.
Hmm.
There's a little hunting season, digging season, which is the month of September when the berries are ripe, and then you will replant the berries in the hole that you dig the ginseng from. If you excuse me for a second, I could go get a big jar of ginseng to show you.
Sure, go for it.
All right. Also trying to charge my phone real quick. Sorry about that. I'm back. This is a $400 worth of ginseng right there.
Wow.
And those are some really nice roots. Oh, 35 plus years old. So that's just a quarter pound.
That's a quarter pound of ginseng? Looks like it would be so much
Yep.
more.
Right. May have swollen a little bit from being in that liquor for a year and a half. So that's soaking in 190 proof corn alcohol. So we make high proof alcohol to do our extractions. So the traditional, as well as being a cash a generator. Alcohol was made as medicine, grandpa's medicine, and people would infuse it with different medicinal things. Use if you got a cold, to break a fever, they'd put spearmint, horehound, different things in there, herbs. So we try to go with that traditional route of, if we're going to flavor our alcohol, we put the actual ingredient in there and extract what's in those ingredients. We obviously can't claim any medicinal benefit to any of our products, but traditionally they had that use as well. And we do sell tinctures that the ginseng dealer friend of ours makes. Shady Grove Botanicals is the name of their company, and they make small medicinal tinctures out of ginseng and chaga and different medicinal mushrooms and herbs like golden seal. And so we sell those here too as well for people that are interested in that herbal medicine but don't want to drink alcohol. But with our flavors, the things are all plants that will grow around here. So we do cranberry, which grows in the high elevation bogs at the top of these mountains, about as far south as you'll find cranberries, though there is a wilderness maybe about an hour and a half south of us called the Cranberry Wilderness, and they grow there as well. But the flora and fauna around here is really akin to a little bit of Canada is what, where I grew up, Canaan Valley was, they couldn't pronounce Canada, so it ended up Canaan Valley, but you'll find a lot of those same species here. So really unique in that way. The cranberry is a great one we usually come out with that a little bit before Thanksgiving and Christmas. Then we do elderberry, which is a really traditional flavor here as well. Elderberry jam, jelly, pies. So we do the cranberry, the elderberry, the ginseng. We're touching on a little bit, and it's turned out to have a really good following, and it's one of the products that we're looking to push into production as we move forward. Little federal regulation quirk is if you have ginseng in your alcohol, it can't be above 60 proof. So it's our only spirit that is not 80 or above. And I don't know why, but I try to just say okay and do what they ask. And so
That's
what we do is it's
yeah.
actually to extract the medicine from ginseng. We do it's a double extraction. We soak it in alcohol for a year, and then we'll actually boil it in water and then use that water to proof down the liquor. And so you get different compounds from the ginseng in the alcohol than you do from boiling it in water. And then we combine that, so you're getting a full extraction of all the goodness that's in those roots. As you can imagine, something that's been growing in the mountainside for 20, 30 years, it's very earthy, bitter flavor to it. And we use a little bit of local honey that will balance that out.
I mean, I'm learning about ginseng and why. I mean, why it's so expensive, why it's grown where you are, and that's such an oddly specific thing that if ginseng is in it, it can't be above 60 proof.
It's very oddly
That's
specific, yes.
yeah,
So, it's a
yeah.
stimulant of sorts. You see it in energy drinks, but then you see the
Mm,
99 proof caffeinated vodka. So I don't know why they
mm.
picked on ginseng for that one. It's like, yeah,
Interesting.
it could be 60 proof. You drink half a bottle. It could be 100 proof. You take a sip. It's kind of up to the imbiber in my eyes. But
Yeah, I hear you. So you have let's see, for the whiskeys. This was a fun episode to research because you haven't done a ton of interviews. Yeah, like I know it's kind of
yeah.
recent that you're pushing into distribution even beyond just at the distillery. So kind of getting in on the ground floor here. I'd love to hear more about your process for uh, like fermentation and mashing. As you said, you get the 100% Bloody Butcher corn
Hmm.
from partially from I think your own farm and then also from Joe, but
Yeah.
then there's also the rye and other spirits you do. So yeah, so what does your production look like?
Yeah. So we can see the still behind me here, and that's the one we currently use. When we got started, we used a copper pot with a direct fire underneath, which we actually still have here in production, but not using it for whiskey at this time. And so we had a system where we would mash the corn in a masher and then transfer it to a fermenter. And we would separate it from the grain and then distill grain off in the copper pot. And after a couple years, we were able to make the move and purchase the still behind me, which is called an ice still. a very utilitarian machine and a do-it-all. So that's my masher, my fermenter, and my still right behind me. And so it's heated by electric heating elements. It's all stainless steel. It's also a square, and which makes it, you can mount stuff on it very easily. Like you can see the little control panel mounted there on it.
Mm.
And so it has an agitator on it, and it has a couple temperature sensors throughout it. And so my mashing basically come in the night before, put my water in there, set it on to heat. I'm in about 6 in the morning and slowly add 750 pounds of Bloody Butcher into there. And we'll get that stirred up. We use enzyme on our 100% corn mash because we're not using any malted barley or rye to it. So we use an enzyme, and then we bring it up to about 190 degrees, which is gelatinization for corn. And then we'll cool it back down. We'll hit it with another enzyme on the way back down. And then we'll bring it down to where the yeast can survive. And then we're using a champagne yeast. I usually getting about a 7%, 6 to 7% alcohol volume off of our mash. And then it has a radiator in there. You can set it to keep the fermentation at a certain temperature. So with that volume, it'll heat itself up through the activation of the yeast to the point where it would kill itself. So for consistency, we keep the temperature regulated by running cold spring water through the radiator on it. And it's usually about a 10-day to 2-week fermentation in there. And then in the summer, definitely on the 10-day side. And then once it's fermented, we just kick it into distillation mode, agitate the solids back up, put the heating elements on, and then we'll distill it from there. And then we basically just, as soon as we're done distilling and it cools down enough, we'll clean out the still, feed that mash to the cattle, and then start a new mash. The downside to this production system is obviously we can't run the still while it has the fermentation going on inside. So we're limited to, at the max, about once every 2 weeks running this still. We purchased it oversized on purpose for that reason, that we could meet our production goals for the whiskey running on that schedule and then not have to purchase, separate masher, fermentation tanks, that floor space. So that's the basic mashing procedure. Any other questions on it?
I mean, I heard you talk about on one of the interviews that because you're in a pretty rural area, there's no three-phase power. So
True.
that went into part of your, that went as part of your planning of what still you could get and equipment you could get because you needed stuff that could rerun on without triphasic power.
I'm actually
So is
using
that
a converter right now.
yeah,
So have a phase converter on the back porch that turns the power from single phase to 3-phase. So that added a bit of expense to the setup of this equipment.
right? And does does that also potentially limit you if you wanted to add in a second still, if you want to up production and be able to run more than once every 2 weeks or so?
If I want to go off electric power, I'm pretty much maxed out right now. I'm at the very end of the line, and when I kick that phase converter on, the lights dim for a second. So yeah, there's no more electric stills coming into the building. If I wanted to expand, I'd have to go with propane, steam boiler, something of that nature.
Gotcha. And you said before you had this eye still that you use the a direct fire.
Yep.
Was there? I mean, I understand the eye still gives you a lot of advantages. It's all in one. It's for that purpose. It's much easier. Did you? Was there a thought to finding something larger that could still go on direct fire, or was it not really viable?
Well, one of the reasons we went with direct fire to start was the affordability of the system. We haven't noticed a beneficial flavor comparing the clear liquor that we made on the direct fire still to that of the ice still. Very comparable flavor. And the real benefit, and I guess the biggest drawback of direct fire, is having to strain the grains out and how to keep the grains from burning. and especially the larger volume that you go. And it only takes a little bit of scorch to put that flavor and ruin a whole batch. And as you go up in volume, it's a big risk, if you ruin a massive 500 gallon, mash. That's a lot of money in production out the window. So a lot more fail safe without the direct heating. And there's certainly a nostalgia to it. You feel like you're sitting around the campfire while you sit there and watch it run. But in the end, this is much more efficient and just more fail safe with the burning aspect of your mash.
And with the iStill, you're able to make the corn whiskey, bring it up to that, super high proof if you want for extraction, also lower proof for whiskey making.
Yes.
Do you use different processes for your corn whiskey versus your rye?
There's not a lot of difference in the process. The main difference is not bringing it up to a high temperature that would denature the enzymes in the rye and the barley. So with corn, it has a higher gelatinization temperature in it, and it's also not malted. So, and even malted corn has very low enzyme activity. And so you want to bring the corn up to a high temperature, where with the barley and the rye, you want to add it at a temperature that's not going to denature it. And so it's nice
Mm.
with the barley and rye because you get to skip that whole, it's about 30 degrees or so of heating and cooling that you don't have to do because it's already malted. It gelatinizes and then it has its own enzyme activity. So we don't have to use the lab enzymes and we don't have to heat it as high when we're doing the rye and the barley. Otherwise, very similar process of getting it up to the temperature that'll gelatinize it, then bringing it down and adding the yeast. And we use the same yeast and similar fermentation time and temperature. You
And that-
mentioned being able to use this still for different products. And so it's a really neat system. It's, I think, technically would be called a liquid management still, where a lot of your stills are vapor management. Like a direct fire one is vapor management. And the nice thing about a liquid management still is it's open to the atmosphere at the top of the column and relies
mm,
solely on condensation to keep vapor from escaping the top of the still column. And so it's basically a zero pressure system. You have a no pressure gauge. There's no way for it to build pressure. And so that's another nice safety feature. As long as you have enough cold water to condense everything, there's no pressure building in your still. And then you can run it pretty much like a pot still where almost everything that's coming up the column is coming out, and you can make really low proof, flavorful products, or you can choke it down and you can run vodka off of it. And so it's very versatile to have one piece of equipment that you can do all those different things with.
and
The
in
big drawback of that is that the column is packed with little tiny stainless steel springs. And so if you wanted to make gin and then make bourbon the next day, intensive cleaning needed if you want to get rid of that flavor. So what we do is we just run whiskey in this. It makes, you don't have to try to strip every bit of flavor that might be on those little springs out. And then we use the copper still for our gin and other products that are off flavors per se. So it has a stackable column that you can easily take the bubble plate stacks. So it's easy to take apart and clean. Whereas this is
mm,
sitting there probably has 500 pounds worth of springs in it. I don't want to take that apart.
so if you're going off of liquid management as opposed to vapor, is that why there really isn't? It doesn't sound like there's much of any copper in the system.
Yeah, so what we use is we just buy pure copper packing mesh and we'll insert that into the bottom of the column before each run. And
Mm.
so we have a little bit of fresh copper in the vapor stream every time. And so we are getting the benefit of having copper in there without the downside of having to try to clean the copper, which is harder than cleaning stainless.
Mm. Right. In the almost 10 years that you've been distilling, where you are at Still Hollow, has what do you feel the reception has been with particularly the local audience for the spirits, and that can be unaged or aged spirits?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I get all kind of feedback. Um, some people tell me I'm doing it wrong. Some people say it's great. We definitely have a local following, repeat customers that come in all the time, um, or regularly. You know what they're going to get when they come in. There's our prices are a little bit high for some people's tastes, and I understand that. Yeah, we think our ginseng and our elderberry are probably some of our biggest ones that we have a local following with. The clear corn whiskey, we have a really good local following with. In general, the reaction to having the business here has been spectacular with the local neighborhood and community. People that grew up in this area know it was a big boom town in the 1930s, and there were lumber mills and there were thousands of people. And then as that all died out, slowly the population dwindled, and the, last little corner stores down on the corner here closed, maybe 20, 30 years ago. So people are just excited to have a business come, and, I wasn't worried about, they're going to be mad about the traffic, this, that.
Mm.
And, the neighbor down there put signs up on his shed for me at the intersection, and they're just really excited to see something happen and think it's great. They'll stop in and talk. Um, they just shoot the breeze, even if they're not coming in to buy a bottle.
As you mentioned, because of you're so close to three of the top visiting locations in West Virginia, you get a good tourism foot traffic as well. There's a, a different reaction for tourists as opposed to locals.
Yeah, so the tourists are, I would say, a little bit more impressed just in general, or it's not something out of the ordinary for the locals, but for the average tourist that travels to get here, and then just to see the building and the distillery, and taste all the products and see the spring where the water's coming right out of the ground. Yeah, I think really authentic and an experience that people really enjoy in general. Very impressed with the spirits as well. So it's really cool to see people from all over the country, all over the world, get to talk to them, kind of tell them about our area and what makes it unique, explain the history, let them taste all these things. And, a lot of kind of mind blown reactions to people coming in here, and just 99% very positive experience with the visitors that we get. And I think being out of the way here a little bit, the people that come here want to come here, either that or they're
Mm.
adventuring around and they see the sign. And so it attracts people that are just a high quality of people, in my opinion. So we have a really a fun time with our visitors, the tourists that come here, and we get a lot of repeat visitors. One thing with the local people is whenever they have people come in from out of town, it's like the on their list to do, like, oh, we got new people in town. Got to take them to Still Hollow and show them that. And so we get a lot of our customers from people bringing their friends, relatives, visitors that come in town here. Yeah, it's just been fun to watch it grow. I think right now we're about, looking at the square, you can see return customers versus new customers. We're about 50-50 right now on return versus new customers. Whereas obviously when we started, it was 99% new customers, and it's slowly reached a little bit of an equilibrium.
Nice. That's fantastic to hear. And as you said earlier, you got the state willing to work with you. So the state's not necessarily holding you back either.
Yeah, they have some quirks. So yeah, I'm thankful that they allow me to operate the tasting room here and let me sell the liquor direct here as a little mini retail store. So um, I do have to go online and purchase it from them technically before I sell it, even here in the tasting room, so that they get a little cut.
Mm.
And then there's obviously taxes and whatnot. But otherwise, to be in any bar or restaurant in the state, you have to ship it to a state warehouse down in Charleston, which is a 3.5 hour drive, and then they will redistribute it back up to the liquor store that's a half hour down the road from here. So we don't do any distribution in the state for that reason. So, it's not a perfect system, but I am thankful that, they at least give me the opportunity to run the tasting room here, and it's been good.
And I think it's a good point to shout out Big Thirst Marketing, who through whom I found out about Still Hollow. I've worked with Matt and Jennifer over there on many different brands over the past couple of years, and as I was looking through some of their emails introducing new clients, new products that I should be taking a look at, Still Hollow spirits came up, and here we are. And so for you, even as of a couple of years ago, you were, as I said, you were focusing really on kind of on premise. It was at the distillery. You had to come to the distillery if you wanted to buy your spirits and taste things. What for you made you feel like, okay, this was a good time to, or this was the right time to push further in the state, out of state to distribution?
Well, yeah, shout out Big Thirst. They've been a great partner. For those that don't know, that's our online retail partner that fulfills when you're ordering off our website. And having these people travel here from all over the country, and then we're getting emails, you know, 2 months later, can you ship me a bottle? I want another bottle of that. My friends drank my whole bottle. They want a bottle. I want a bottle. So we were inundated with a lot of requests like that to ship out our spirits. And so we wanted to figure out how to make that happen. Legally, we can't ship from West Virginia. Um, and there's actually one of the other distillers in the state, Mountain State Distilling. They had already been using Big Thirst. They're based out of the Clarksburg area. And so they told us about Big Thirst, and we talked to them. And luckily, one of their fulfillment states is the District of Columbia. So there's only a few states throughout the country that you can legally ship from. And then you have to get in distribution in that state. And then one of the retail partners will ship out for you. So DC is like the Wild West. You can show up there, get a solicitor's license, and go sell direct to liquor stores and bars. That was the only place that we were currently distributing, was a couple spots in DC. And so it worked out perfect in talking to Big Thirst that we have a partner in DC that can do the online fulfillment for you. And so great partnership with them. And now the visitors from all over the country, at least most of the country, I think a couple states are out in the cold, but most states you can get online and have our spirit shipped direct to your door. So that's been great for us, just to have that extra avenue. And for those existing customers that, we build a relationship with here and their on-premise visit, to now be able to continue to purchase our spirits and share it with their family and friends.
Nice. And I wanted to mention also another kind of repeat partnership you've been able to do. If you go to the Still Hollow website, one of the products that are listed is distilled IPAs.
Oh, yeah.
And not a ton of distilleries distilling, real potable beer. I've had a few on in the past year or so, but not a ton. So, and this was a partnership dating at least back to like 2019 or 2018 even, so pretty early. What was it like creating those partnerships with, for example, Stumptown, to take their beer and distill it?
Yeah, so that I can't claim to be the genius behind the idea there, but certainly has been a great product, and really was one that we did very early on. I think maybe the first year that we were in production, we were distilling some of their beer. So their head brewer at the time, he's also a master plumber and a gas pipe guy, and so he came down, helped me wire up my still and install the burner and everything like that. And so he was working down here, on his time off, helping me get things set up. And then he was brewing beer back up there as his main job. And so it was really my relationship with him. He said it would usually be just not an absolutely perfect beer, but I mean, we drank it before we put it in the still. You had to have a couple glasses, some really heavy duty IPAs that sometime would just not ferment all the way completely to where they wanted it, get stalled out for some reason. They're shooting for 11, 12%, and it stopped at 9.5. And so they didn't want to sell it as exactly that. That product that they already had a reputation for and a taste. And so, we were able to just make kind of a deal where we'd trade them some empty barrels to do their barrel aged stuff, and go get that beer and make sure it went to a good use. And didn't really know exactly how it would turn out. to begin with, but they have a huge cult following in the area. People love their beer, and so it's a built-in marketing. You just uh, check out this partnership with Stumptown Distilled IPA, and people gobbled it up. It's a like a malt whiskey. It would be because the beer is mostly malted barley, and so the
Hmm.
backbone is a malt whiskey backbone. But then you have the hops in there that technically brings it out of the whiskey realm, and the wisdom of the TTB, it's a spirit distilled from grain and distilled with hops. So
Hmm.
they made it a mouthful to put on the bottle. Basically, a hoppy malt whiskey. When you first distill it, the hop oils are very volatile. The whole building just fills with a intense hop aroma. The clear distillate is extremely pungent, almost unpalatable for anyone but the hoppiest of the hop heads. We have barrel aged all the ones that we've released. We've done some younger ones in smaller barrels, which hold more of that hop flavor. And then we've done some longer aging where that hop flavor mellows out, but it's still undeniably there. I would say in the tasting room, it is not everyone's favorite. You get a lot of, well, that's different, but then you also get the people that just absolutely love it. So it's definitely a niche for the IPA heads, and it's extremely smooth. And I love it because I don't have to mash before I distill. Straight into the pot, and do have to be careful about foam. Try to have them decarb it as much as they can before we pump it out, and learn by experience just to fill the still up about 2/3 of the way, leave about a third of it for headroom, or else you're gonna get foam all through your column and have to shut your still down. We also partnered with Big Timber. They're up in Elkins, West Virginia, so they're both about a half hour in opposite directions. The very neat family. The dad has a big sawmill, hence the name of the brewery. Got a lot of the lumber in this building from him at his sawmill, and then his son has the brewery. His other son has a organic farm that we work with called the Charm Farm. And so basically we've got a different IPA from those guys and done some batches of the Big Timber too, which has also turned out really nice. So yeah, fun partnerships.
Of the even though you said you've got people who love it, who say, "Oh, that's different." Do you get a lot of people trying it because they see it and are like, "I whether I like it or not, I definitely haven't had it before."
Yep. So I gotta try it.
Yeah,
Never heard of that.
yeah,
I didn't know you could
yeah.
distill beer.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. And we have, I don't think it's on our website, but I'll just mention it because it's very much in the same vein. We have another good friend who has a honey wine, a mead place down the road. He raises bees and does a lot of different varietal meads. And so we've actually been distilling his mead into a liquor. So it's 100% honey based spirit, no grains at all in it, where, similar to going to the brewery and picking up a couple 100 gallons of beer, go to his winery and pick up a couple 100 gallons of honey wine, bring it back here and distill it, and then barrel age it. So that's also been a fun partnership.
Nice. I like it. It's not a ton of distilled meads or honey wines out there. Um,
Yeah, the most expensive
uh,
thing I've ever distilled for sure.
I bet the honey itself. I know because we've had a couple of distillers on who will do a honey cask finish for their
Yeah,
whiskeys, and all of them will say, you think you can do a ton of this stuff, but but I mean, you have farms and producers who can't fill a 53-gallon barrel with honey because it's so intensive to just get the
right.
single barrel filled with it. So it opened my eyes a little bit to what's really required when it comes to honey and honey related products.
We've done
Um,
that's
yeah,
been an advantage of us using the smaller barrels as well. So we were able to partner with him and do a honey barrel whiskey. So we provide him with 5 and 10 gallon bourbon barrels. He does specialty bourbon barrel honeys that he sells at markets. And then we get the barrels back and fill them with clear corn whiskey, age it for about 2 years and get a really nice honey barrel rested corn whiskey.
nice. That sounds
Yeah,
delicious. I like it.
it's
So
very nice.
we're pretty much at the end of my questions. So the last one I have that I like to ask almost everybody on the podcast is, you've been distilling now for 10 years. Sounds like you have no signs of slowing down or exiting the business. So what would you like your legacy and that of Still Hollow to be?
Wow. So the legacy of Still Hollow. Well, I hope that we've informed a lot of people that have come through the doors about kind of the importance of high quality ingredients, doing things authentically, not looking at the bottle and read whether it's actually distilled by someone or whether it's just rebranded, MGP, kind of turning people onto the craft side of it and trying to get people to support those small producers that put a lot of energy into it, whether that's us or they go home and find a version of us in their state. So just trying to push forward the high quality local ingredients and, really caring about what you're putting out for your customers. If we can spread that message and also give somebody high quality stuff to drink and enjoy with their family and friends and bring some cheer into people's lives, then that's our goal.
I love it. Well, Athey, thank you so much for coming on, for talking about West Virginia, about Still Hollow Spirits. As I said, I'll have links in the show notes for where you can follow them, but you can also get their spirits if you're in one of those, I think, 41 or 42 states that Big Thirst ships to through both Still Hollow's website as well as Big Thirst. So I'll have a link for that as well. Hang out with me for just a minute after I finish the recording, Athey.
Okay. Well, thank you
And
so much for having me on. For anyone out there that's not been to West Virginia, we're just one of many hidden gems. The people here, very friendly and hospitable. So make a trip here. Check us out. It's a beautiful state.
but I hope to be down there myself. It's too many states I haven't been to, and it's on my list. So thank you everyone for listening. Check out the show notes for, like I said, links for notes on the bottle. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. Athey and the Big Thirst team were generous enough to send a bottle of the Still Hollow straight bourbon whiskey, so that will be noted up on the website as well. And with that, thank you everyone for listening. Please like, rate, and subscribe wherever you do listen to your podcasts, and I'll see you all next week.